Hi, and welcome today to another powerful episode of Women Winning Their Way. All of us have heard the phrase that your life can change in an instant. And this is exactly what my guest today has faced. A normal, everyday outing to the dentist with her kids turned into a defining moment in her life. And we're going to talk about what do you do when those life moments happen and you need to shift how you are showing up and really be able to reinvent what your life and in turn success can look like for you. So I would like to welcome to the stage my guest today, Meghan Bigelow. Meghan, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
So we have known each other for, many years, in and out because our two boys went to school together.
Right?
And you have been somebody that I've been really wanting to get on because your story is so powerful. And I know that it's really going to give people a chance to think and again, really give us some tools to help us because my version of a bad day is nowhere near what you had to go through. So
Yeah.
before we dive into your story, if you don't mind, maybe just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and who you are.
Okay. I am Megan Bigelow. I am the co-founder of Big Waves Inc. Um, and I'm a mom.
Mhm.
So I live in Colorado, just north of Denver. That's how we know each other through the lovely elementary school years.
Yeah.
Um, so just a normal person,
Mhm.
nothing dramatic in what I do.
Yeah.
So
Well, we're going to dive into that and we're definitely going to talk about, your organization, Big Waves organization in a little bit. But, why don't you tell us a little bit because, as I alluded to, we know that life can change in an instant. But
mhm,
your instant is very different than what most of us face. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit of your story.
yep. So back in on June 14th, 2018, and some of your listeners, viewers may remember a mom in Colorado driving her three kids um, to the dentist office, and there was a road rage shooting. Well, I was the mom. Our story actually went national. I have heard it actually went international. Um, so June 14th, 2018, normal day. We had just been gone on a trip for a couple weeks, so we were back for a few days, back in the swing of summer swim team, all of that. That afternoon, I was taking the boys, Vaughn, Cooper, and Asa, down to their, you know, every 6 month dentist visit. On the way down, there was an emergency vehicle that was coming up behind me, and we were stopped at a light. And I looked at Cooper, who was at the time 12, and I said, when the light turns green, watch to see which way the emergency vehicle is going, if it's coming straight, if it's turning, just so I know and to anticipate if I need to get over. Well, he told me it went straight through the light, so I knew it was going to come up behind me. So I put my directional on and was about to get over, and I saw the blinking light in my rearview mirror, um, and came back into my lane, like make sure I didn't get over. And I was like, "Oh, sorry." And the driver of the car that was over there started screaming and cursing at me. Needless to say, this was like the first super ridiculously hot day here in Colorado. So it was, 97 degrees. And the air conditioning in my Suburban decided to break that morning. So we had all the windows down. So we could easily hear the other driver. And so I was like, whoa, what just happened? Um, and then I knew the emergency vehicle was still coming behind me. So I tried to speed up and the other driver sped up. And I was like, because I knew I still had to get over. I tried to slow down. The other guy slowed down. Like he would not let me in. And eventually the emergency vehicle came up behind us and I was able to get over and get in front of him. And the boys were like, what is going on? I was like, I don't know. And then there was construction and it went down to one lane and he was directly behind us. Still, we could hear when we would stop at lights, he would still be yelling at us or at me. He wasn't yelling at the kids, he was yelling at me. And we proceeded to get through the construction, it opened back up to, I think, 3 lanes, 2 lanes, 3 lanes. Stop at the light to turn left at the dentist office. And Cooper again goes, he's right behind us. And the light, it was like I sat there waiting at the light. It felt like forever. I think it was 3 or 4 minutes. And I was like, okay, he's back there, not doing anything. So I turned and then you have to make an almost immediate right into the parking lot. I did that. And Cooper goes, he followed us in the parking lot. I was like, okay. I don't know what's going on. Like I was getting out of the way for an emergency vehicle. And then Cooper looked at me and said, what are we going to do? I said, we're going to get out of the car and walk into the dentist's office. That's what we're going to do. Well, he proceeded, the other driver parking like right behind my car. So when I got out and was helping Asa get out of his booster seat, I mean, he's still yelling at me. And honestly, at this point, I don't remember everything he was yelling, but he was cursing at me. And I mean, at that point, I was like, what is your problem? Like, I was getting out of the way from the emergency vehicle. I started yelling back. And then he started to drive away out of the parking lot. And for some unknown reason, I took my phone out of my purse to take a picture of his car and thinking the whole time. Well, actually, I took the picture and I said, let's see what the police say about that. Thinking in the back of my head, he hasn't done anything wrong. The police don't care. I'm going to go inside and show it to Dr. Sean and his staff and tell them like this idiot followed me, blah, blah, blah. Like, don't even know why I did it. And all of a sudden he backed up and I could see into his car and he reaches over in his passenger side and gets a gun. So I turned towards the boys and I said, he's got a gun, run. And hoping that they would just run into the dentist's office because it wasn't that far. Maybe 25 yards, like go up a ramp and you're in there. Or there's tons of trees and bushes, like hide. And so he walks around the front of his car and I think to myself, okay, he's mad at me. He will follow me. And I start walking away from the boys in between 2 cars, thinking that he will follow me. And the next thing I know, I'm shot in the back. Through my purse, shot in the back, and I fall on my face, staring at a back tire of a car. And I try to count gunshots, but then I lost consciousness. Then I regained consciousness, and there's still gunshots going on. I'm trying to count them, thinking it's going to be important. Lose count, go unconscious again. Next thing I know, I can hear Cooper crouched next to me going, Mom, 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 Mom. And I know that I can't lie to him and say, I'm okay, because I know I'm not. So I say, I can hear you. So he knew, he would hear my voice and know that I was still alive. Because I was down. Oh, and before Cooper came, I was down, came back into consciousness, counting, then think, maybe he won't shoot me again because he'll think I'm dead. But lo and behold, that did not work. He shot me when I was down in the back of the head and ricocheted out through my ear, losing my earring, like flying. And I just remember thinking, I was already down. Why are you shooting me again? So then Cooper comes. And then the next thing I remember, I'm in an ambulance. And then I remember like one specific thing in the emergency room. And then for the next handful of days, it was even like a step up from the ICU. I was in this private room. And I remember bits and pieces. And I remember sort of waking up, and I was intubated at this point, sort of waking up and hearing voices and thinking, oh, coma patients can hear people talking. I can hear them. What are they saying? And I could not tell you what they were saying. Like at that point, I knew, but couldn't tell you today what Vaughn or my mom or my dad or my father-in-law or mother-in-law were saying. And then I couldn't speak because I was intubated, so I would do sign language. So it would always, for some reason, start with Asa. Asa was the youngest. He was 7 at the time. So I'd be like, Asa. And then I'd be like, I would start Cooper, C-O-O. And then I couldn't remember the P. Couldn't remember P, but I knew E and like R something. And then I'd be like, yeah, Bubba. So Vaughn Jr. we call Bubba. B, U, B, B, A. And so I would never get all the way through Bubba. And Vaughn would always be like, I can't remember if he would say they're okay or like the boys are all right. I think he would say something along those lines. Because at that point, Bubba, my oldest, who was 13 at the time, just shy of 14, his birthday was about in 2 weeks. He actually died. He was killed. He was murdered. So they pronounced him when he came into the hospital. So the same doctor that pronounced him on the pediatric side then came to me and wound up saving my life. So it was after June 14th, around 3:15, life was very different and is still. Mhm.
You. I know having to even just share this is probably something that you relive every day. And I knew this was going to be a tearjerker. And I just, again, honor you and your family. And, one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on here is, not to sensationalize the story like a reality television, but to bring awareness to it. Because I think all of us have had those moments where we accidentally cut somebody off
Mhm.
or, you know, didn't let them in emerging. And
Mhm.
we don't think anything. And you shouldn't.
No.
In the end, it was an innocent mistake.
Right.
And just remembering that all of our actions, again, it's that ripple effect. And
Mhm.
I would imagine that before this happened, if I were to ask you, what would a successful day look like for you? What would you say?
So pre-June 14th, at that point, I was mom full time. I had been working for a period of time. I was no longer working, not traveling. I was doing a direct sales business, so I could do it when I wanted.
Mhm.
So six, honestly, when your kids are 13, 12, 7 at that point, six, or even younger, success to like basically a full-time mom is more, is every kid fed, accounted for, dressed, and clean?
Mhm.
Like it's
Simple,
minute by minute, day by day. Are we raising little humans to be good humans?
right?
Overall, are they going to grow up and make the world better, make the world positive,
Mhm.
be respectful, be able to tap into their inner workings and figure out what they want to do in life?
Exactly. Yeah. A successful day is just being a good parent and, again, celebrating those moments. And so I want to kind of just dive into some of these things and, use this as a way, again, to educate people, not just on the cause that we'll get to in a few minutes, but, we all have bad days. Now, obviously, there's a ranging spectrum of it, but at the end of it, you had to continue on living. You had two other children, you had your husband, you had your life. But how do you do that? Because again, I might have a bad day where I lose a client, but this is on a whole other level. What were some of the things you had to do for yourself to continue going on after you were able to get out of the hospital?
Yeah, and I was in the hospital rehab for about 55 days. So I spent all the summer of 2018 basically in the hospital. My mentality, once I basically figured out that overall I was going to survive, I was not going to have major deficits as far as being paralyzed, totally being, I do have a brain injury because I was shot in the head, but it wasn't to a point where I couldn't speak, couldn't fully remember things. There was like some amnesia, but not full amnesia. So once I figured out that I would be able to live with my injuries,
Mhm.
it basically was, I knew I would be okay. So why not work towards that? The fear of my brain swelling
Mhm.
or the fear of being paralyzed or those kinds of physical fears, they didn't exist anymore.
Right.
So I would just wake up and do what I had to do. If it's
I love that. And I think that that is such a beautiful statement because so many people, I think, in that moment could, go one of two ways. They could say, this is it, life is different, and go into that victim mentality and really never get better. And even though this is always going to change you and this is never going to go away, and that moment will live with you forever, you had the choice of saying, you know what? I'm here. Let's go forward, whatever forward might look. And I love how you position that of, you didn't you have those fears anymore. You made the decision that I'm going to survive. Let's see how this goes forward. So
right.
I think that that's a really powerful statement because I think, for the rest of us that are having those rough days, again, it puts it in perspective of
Mhm,
saying, what, are these really that big? We have a choice and let's go ahead. We're here, we're alive, we're breathing. Let's go
mhm.
forward. So I really acknowledge you for that. Talk about with, your children, because obviously this changed all of you, not just you and your husband, but your children. How did this change, how you parent?
So it changed. It actually changed a lot. Because especially when I was in the hospital, Asa had severe injuries. He was in the hospital for 70 some odd days. And I remember Vaughn even saying, we don't know if he's going to be able to walk. We don't know how he's going to come out of this. And so my mentality of, I'm going to be okay.
Mhm.
I also had the mentality of Ace is going to be okay. Ace will walk again. He's going to have difficulties. He's going to have to overcome things. He's going to have to relearn writing, words, certain things, but he will overcome. Cooper was a different story. Cooper, so he was 12 at the time. All of a sudden, so he ran into the dentist's office when gunshots started. And he told them, my mom is being shot, call 911. And then at some point, he actually ran back out while the shooter was still there. So he all of a sudden within that day lost his older brother, and they were close. They were 22 months apart. They were
Mhm.
buddies. They did everything. His mom is now in the hospital, in critical condition. I may or may not live. Asa's in the hospital in critical condition, may or may not live. So he had to basically he lived at his aunt's house that summer with his cousins, would see Vaughn at the hospital, but even Vaughn wasn't coming home. So I think he was definitely angry. There was a lot of anger. So when everything kind of settled down, it was a lot of trying to regain his trust almost,
Mhm.
and knowing he was in a fragile state. So giving him extra room in a safety net kind of to have whatever emotions he was having, anger, sadness. Um, he had moments of happiness, something good happened, but all those things as a tween that they don't know how to process. So there was a lot of grace given to him. If he wanted to go get ice cream, we would go and get ice cream, right? And it's taken a long time for him to kind of trust me again. It took a long time.
Mhm.
Um, and him to rebuild his relationship in a different way with Asa, knowing that Asa had some severe injuries and had to be more delicate. So you don't all of a sudden say, no, we're locking down and
Right.
you can't do anything. And you don't also say, well, we survived, so you can go do whatever you want. There is a boundary,
Mhm.
right? But there's some grace involved and some room to kind of flow around the ebbs and flows.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, what a journey. And again, it's not just even about that one moment. Again, it's, you have to completely again redefine how you show up each and every day. And
Mhm.
not just for you as the mom, but for each of your families. And, again, it's a different dynamic and, really thinking about that. Now, through this process, Bubba, who passed away, he
Mhm.
was a big swimmer.
It was.
And I know that you created a foundation around this
Mhm.
to honor him and to also raise awareness. So if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about, how you used this to create something beautiful.
Yeah. So Vaughn and I knew we had to do something coming out of this. There was such an outpouring of community support, um, that we knew we had to pay it forward somehow. So in December of 2018, we started Big Waves Inc. And Big Waves actually stands for Bring Impact Globally with a Very, Very Energetic Smile.
Mhm.
So Bubba, as you know, Vaughn, he was had lots of energy, always going, always smiling. He actually had ADHD, so that's where some of the energy came from. He would always be outside playing. He would be riding bikes, swimming, like you said, water polo, skiing, you name it. He also we like to say he was in destruction, not construction.
As a
So
typical boy,
yeah,
teenage boy.
exactly. So he would like pull apart his, skateboard
Mhm.
to see how it all went together, kind of thing. It was, and then he would put it back together, and lo and behold, there would be pieces that didn't make it back in. So we'd be like, "What about these?" He'd be like, "I don't know." Um, so Big Waves basically encompasses all of Bubba. Bubba was big into swimming, water polo. Water polo in Colorado is fairly non-existent.
Yeah.
There's, I think, two club teams. There might be three. I think there's one in this Colorado Springs now. And so the first kind of easier goal that we knew could be getting water polo as a high school sport, and it can be a co-ed sport. So we've helped develop the Colorado High School Water Polo Association, and grow that and support that as needed. So that was the first piece because we knew that was kind of like easy button. The next piece, which we knew was going to be the long haul, take a long time, was gun safety and education.
Mhm.
So we knew that owning guns, firearms, it's very polarizing in our society. And we wanted to stay kind of in the middle. So our piece is on safety. So anyone can go to bigwavesinc.org and order a free gun lock. Basically, we get an email and we'll ship you out a free gun lock. No questions. Right? The other piece is we work with two gun ranges, one here in Colorado, one actually in New Jersey, and we sponsor youth education classes. So parents will sign their kids up for, they may not go to a gun safety training, but they'll sign their kids up for one. And so the kids get to go, they get to learn about gun safety, they go into the range and practice it. And so we sponsor those classes.
Wow.
So, like, those are at least two aspects we do.
Mhm.
Um,
I
the
love, sorry to cut you off. I love how you're not telling people get rid of your guns.
No.
You're just educating.
Mhm.
And, since this has happened, it's obviously I've been more aware of it. And it's remarkable how many stories I've heard of small children that have gotten a hold of their parents' guns.
Mhm.
So I love that again, you're not condemning guns. You're just working to again educate and create safety measures
Mhm.
to protect people. And I think that's a different aspect and a really beautiful aspect.
Thank you. Yeah, because if there's actually the use of guns and firearms is one of the biggest ways that people commit suicide and take their lives. So if a gun is locked, that's 30 seconds to a minute longer that they have to unlock that gun and be able to think about what they're about to do. So hopefully, we like to think that every gun lock we send out saves a life.
Yeah.
So that's really the basis of that aspect.
Do you have any numbers of how many locks you've been able to provide and send out?
Hundreds.
Hundreds.
What I do know is we're trying to get a gun lock in every state. And so, what were the numbers the other day? I think we're at 44 states. I think there's about 5 or 6 states that have not ordered a gun lock,
Mhm.
and DC. We kind of lump DC in there too.
Wow.
So our goal is to really get one in every state.
Yeah.
So that's something we've been working
How can other people get involved to help you with this plight to find out if their state is or isn't and to further contribute?
on. So follow us on social media, on Instagram. I think it's Big Waves Foundation. I think is the
Mhm.
handle. And Facebook, it's Big Waves Inc. And then we have a Twitter account, and you can go to our website and sign up for our newsletter.
Mhm.
We actually just did a post or there was a post coming up about states and how many
Okay.
states don't have it. So, but that's an easy way to do it.
Perfect. And we'll be sure to put all of those links in the show notes so that you can, connect with Megan and the organization and be able to, help serve. And again, this is something where we can, as a community, do something good because you never know whose family, whose child could be affected in a positive way by these safety measures. And I think that's great. So, in looking at this, it it's easy for somebody to say, just trust the process and have faith that everything's going to be okay. And oh, there must be a bigger reason for all of this happening. But on some level, not to sound crass, I call BS on a lot of that because, especially when you're going through it,
Mhm.
it's really hard. And, so what would be some things that you would say if there was another, woman, another mom, even just another person who has something. And it could be something very tragic like this, but it could be the loss of a job, having to file bankruptcy, a divorce, whatever it may be. What would be some things that you and messages you would want to share to have people sort of help themselves to get through this?
I mean, first and foremost is talk about it. A
Mhm.
lot of people have don't share what's going on really on a they're very superficial, right?
Mhm.
Like, how are you doing? Great. Like they won't like if you ask someone how they're doing, they're always going to say fine, good, whatever. Never going to be real about it. So find those people you can trust, those friends, reach out to them. Having support is huge.
Mhm.
And take baby steps. It's not going to all get fixed in one day or
Mhm.
even in a week or a month. Like it's going to take all these steps to go through, and it is a journey.
Mhm.
And like we have so much instant gratification in our world right now. A tragic event, if it's a loss, if it's a loss of a job, if it's, a divorce, whatever, it's not going to just magically get better.
Mhm.
Time does help. I can say that firsthand. It does help, but you can't sit there and just wait for time to go by. You have to take an active piece in that journey of
Mhm.
finding hurdles. Meditating's good, working out, even going for a walk.
Mhm.
Um, really silly, but like I have 3 dogs, like playing with my dogs, hanging with my dogs, like if you have a pet, there to me that's a big piece
Right.
also. But just be honest with yourself and either with your significant other or your good friends. Like I
Mhm.
have some very, very close girlfriends that they they know everything. And
Yeah.
that's extremely helpful. And
Yeah.
they can give you a different perspective.
Mhm. Or also just be there to listen. And I think, you hit on something very key, which is to not be afraid to talk about it. Again, you have to be specific on where you do that.
Yes.
But the idea is, I think so many of us, when we're going through pain, we don't want to burden others. We don't want to keep talking about it. We don't think they're going to understand. And I think it's so important because that is part of the healing process.
Mhm.
And I think it's really important that whether, again, it's a family member, a friend, or even an outside source like a therapist, you have to talk about it as a way to work through it.
Yes.
So, one of the other things that I want to talk about is this concept of mom guilt. Because regardless of the day, we live with mom guilt 24/7. We're never enough, we're never doing enough. But I would imagine, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, that your level of guilt and mom guilt around this probably amplified a little bit.
Mhm.
You know, what if? And asking yourselves, how do you deal with getting past mom guilt?
So from the tragedy that day, even when I was in rehab, so still working back to being able to walk on my own,
Mhm.
like fully speak, do different things, drive. I remember at night going to bed and starting to think, what if this? What if this? What if this? And even at that point, I was like, I cannot go down this rabbit hole. I
Mhm.
can't change what happened. I cannot what if. It's not going to help anybody.
Right.
Does that make all mom guilt go away? Heck no.
Mm.
Heck no. Do I still deal with mom guilt today about other, I can't even think of an example, but other things? Absolutely.
Mhm.
Like I forgot to book whatever doctor's appointment for
Right.
ASA or, with mom guilt, no mom is perfect, no person is perfect. At some point, you just have to accept, yeah, I did that,
Mhm.
and almost own it. Like there'll be times that I'll call Vaughn and be like, well, this just happened. And he will laugh at me. I'm like, don't laugh at me. but,
Mhm.
but like, even just saying it out loud again is helpful.
Yeah.
Like, it's, and we just put so much pressure on ourselves to
Mhm.
be to be mom, the perfect wife, perfect, significant other,
Mhm.
friend, working, you know, busy. Like, it's
Right.
not worth it and it's not achievable.
Right. And I love how you talk about that. The fact is, you can't change anything. So you can what if yourself all day long, but what is that really going to do for you? It's not going to change anything. It's not going to make anything better. And again, it goes back to, I think, your initial statement when we first started, where again, it's the, acceptance of it and the choosing of going forward.
Mhm.
And I think that that's, really powerful. And again, a huge testament to you as such a strong person, because a lot of people would not be able to get through this. And I know, again, it's a battle probably every day, but again, you continue to make that choice each and every day.
Mhm.
Now, going through this, we learn lessons in everything, lessons about what we can do better, things that maybe we should stop doing. What are some of the things that you learned from going through this experience?
Road rage isn't worth it.
Yes. Hmm.
If someone cuts you off, is it really worth following them, yelling at them, honking at them? Like, great. You're in a rush to go somewhere, go right ahead. Like, to me, it's just different now. You in this situation, you really figure out who your friends are. People do show up, or people you think will show up kind of fade away. And so really embrace people that show up and continue to support. I mean, the easy one is life is short.
Mhm.
We all know that and say that, but until you have a tragedy like this where there's a sudden tragic horrible death of your child, you don't really realize it.
Mhm.
So it's also little things like, even I'll say now, if someone's driving somewhere or flying somewhere, and I know, like, if they say, like Cooper says goodbye in the morning to drive to school, I'll say, have a good day, drive safe. Or if someone's flying somewhere, have a good trip, fly, have a safe flight.
Mhm.
Like, I always say, drive safe, have a safe flight. Like, for them, I'm hoping that it puts on them, they don't need to engage in any kind of rage,
Mhm.
and it kind of gives them a little cloud around them and like watching over them, saying, you'll get where you are,
Yeah.
where you need to go safely.
That's really intentional in just planting that seed
Mhm.
because, you're right. When we look at that, that safety is never a guarantee.
Mhm.
And we have to make our own choices. I can't control if somebody else gets road rage, but I can control, again, if I choose to engage or not.
Right.
And sometimes we, again, have to be that bigger person or keep these just in mind. And also, I think for me, it triggered also remember to be kind, not
Mhm.
just be safe, but be kind to the others out there. And if
Right.
you see someone else having a rough day, don't have judgment because you don't know what they're going through. And
Exactly.
opening the door for them or giving them a simple smile or even just saying, you know what, it looks like you're having a rough day. Is there anything I can do? Even if it's a stranger,
Yep.
sometimes just offering, can do that. So I think that's really powerful. You
Yeah.
know,
It's very true.
yeah.
Like, there's a lot in what you just said of, yeah, you see some other mom with their toddler who's 2 freaking out, and
Hmm.
they're like, "Oh my god, I am that mom right now."
Hmm.
You like, to me, I'm like, "Oh, I remember those days." So I will just, like, give the mom a look like, "You got this.
Yep.
You can do it." Like, it's
Yeah.
true, just
It,
give a
it's
smile, give a
Yeah,
hug.
it's so funny you say that. I was visiting my family, this was probably about 6 months ago, and there was that mom with the kid in the stroller, the kid on her chest, another one over here, and she was just trying to get coffee and donuts. And we all could see her, and we all kind of shared that look of, we've been there. And then she got her coffee, which she probably was so excited to get. And one of the kids jerked and she dropped the coffee. And you could just
That
see
poor
that
girl.
moment of utter, I'm going to break down. And it was so cool because four of us all jumped in and we're like, have a seat. We got you.
Yeah.
And, someone bought her a cup of coffee, someone got her a chair, someone got her a napkin. And it was like, again, knowing that we are still a community. And even though we all are different, we all have to connect with each other. And again, if you see someone struggling, remember, we all have those days. And sometimes, again, just reach out. They may say no, but you can still come from a place of kindness.
Right. Or even if you don't feel comfortable reaching out or saying something, if you see someone, they're having a bad day or something's going on, you can tell from people, right?
Mhm.
Give them room, give them space,
Yeah.
like give them a berth. And like, if they do meet your eye, like give them a like smile or be like, yeah, I got you. Like, I know you're
Yeah.
right, kind of
We're
thing.
good. Exactly.
You just,
So I have one more question that I want to ask you. But before we get there, again, I just want to acknowledge you. What you went through is something I don't wish on anyone. And I truly believe that the cause and the organization that you started is saving countless lives. And I hate that this had to come at the cost of you and your family, but I honor the fact that you all banded together and turned this into something that was going to be able to give so much to so many other people. And even though you and I don't talk much and everything, you and your family are in my thoughts and you are an inspiration to me. And a lot of times when I am out there and I see the craziness of the world, because I travel a lot and I see these things, I really do hear you inside of me. And it does calm me and it reminds me that those things really don't matter. And so I just wanted to say thank you because you need to know that what you are going through was not in vain. And
that's so
and I
sweet.
take you with me, I take your family with me, and I just wanted to say thank you very much.
Well, thank
So,
you.
yeah. So, sorry, I'm getting
I
teary.
know. I'm like,
Um, the last
shoot.
question I have for you is, earlier I asked you, before all this happened, what did success look like for you? And it was just having a good day, knowing that we did something, good for our kids and our kids are going to show up and be responsible. Well, now when you sit here today, what does success mean to you today?
Oh, I don't. So it's still raising good humans, but also with the aspect of big waves. Like I remember at one point, Vaughn, when we first started, he's like, "This could be done in a year," and I remember thinking, "Yeah, no. If we're starting this, it is not going to. We're not closing up shop in a year." So now we're looking at almost 5 years that we've been going, and so it's like success really is being able to get the word out there, making new connections, sending out gun locks, saving lives, being able to talk about it like this or in, just people every day that have a kind word. Make sure your guns are stored. And then if you do see someone struggling, help them. Like success now, honestly, is trying to, as we like to say, we have the hashtag ripple of positivity or create a ripple of positivity. We've both. So it really is doing that because ripples grow and they eventually, I like to say, create tsunamis.
Mhm.
So if we can create a tsunami of gun safety, gun education, kindness, the world would be a very different place.
Yeah. Yeah, let's get a tsunami of kindness going
Yeah.
and compassion. I love that, and I think that that is a beautiful place for us to end this. So again, Megan, thank you so much for being here. For all of you watching, so many takeaways from this. Again, take each day for the gifts that it can bring. Nothing is a guarantee. You know, tell people to be safe and remember to be safe for yourself. Kindness matters, and remember, every moment is just a moment. And sometimes we need to choose to let those moments pass and, just be the bigger person in what we're doing. So, again, we will put all the notes of how you can get involved in the Big Waves organization. Donate if you have a gun, if you know others that have a gun. Such a small thing you can do. Get that gun lock. Let's make sure that we are really setting a stage. So, for all of you that are watching, thank you for being here. We're talking about women winning their way and how we can create success all on our terms. I'm your host, Clara Capano, and look forward to seeing you again next time. So, after that powerful and moving story, the moment of clarity I want to share with you today is all about the power of presence and mindset. Megan talked about the idea of being safe. And here it was, a normal day. And I think so many of us go through these moments where we have a split second to decide how we want to respond to something. I see it a lot for myself, especially when I'm traveling, and those airlines get delayed, or there's weather, or there's another traveler. And in that moment, I can choose, do I want to have a mindset of anger, negativity, pessimism, scarcity, or do I want to shift and surrender to the moment and have more of a moment of abundance, kindness, and presence? You see, when someone else is having a bad day, I don't want to make any snap judgments as to why they're having a bad day. That's on them. Remember, we cannot control what happens. All we can control is how we respond to it. And so we need to make sure that we are present and that we always choose to have that mindset that is going to allow us to go forward in a way where we are representing the best version of ourselves. And when we do lose our temper, when we do go into that other mindset, one, be kind to yourself. It happens. We all have those moments where we're like, maybe I should have responded a different way. So have compassion for yourself, but learn from it. Remember, you don't know the battles that somebody else is fighting. You don't know if they're speeding down the street. You don't know. Maybe they're trying to get to the hospital for a loved one, or maybe they're just a jerk. You don't know. So don't make those judgments. So remember, control your mindset, because that is the key to everything else. Be present, show love, show kindness. And as Megan talked about, always make sure that you are safe, safe with your heart, safe with your actions, safe with your mind. Because remember, life can change in a moment. So do your best to set the stage for moments of peace, moments of love, moments of joy, and moments of kindness. Thanks for watching this week's episode. We'll see you next time for Women Winning Their Way.